Hi, Mr. More Sewing here. Today we're going to talk about winding a bobbin. Now you might be thinking, why do I need to do that? I know how to wind a bobbin. But you'd be amazed how many people don't. You'd be surprised how many people get it wrong. You'd be surprised how many people blame poor sewing or poor quality of sewing on the needles or the thread or the fabric. And it turns out they just haven't wound their bobbin properly. There's no tension on the thread, which means you don't get a good sew. Even if you think, well, I know how to wind a bobbin, and you probably do, but I'm hoping there's going to be at least a couple of things that I'm going to tell you about in this video. You'll think, oh, I didn't know that. That's really interesting. That's useful. So stick around and, well, here we go. A few things first. I'm going to show you a bad bobbin, what a badly wound bobbin looks like. Because, of course, it could be that you're winding the bobbins and you're getting this all the time and you don't know that you're getting a badly wound bobbin. So you'll see from this that the bobbin is, the wind on it is soft. You can squeeze the thread and pinch it. That's a bad thing. You're not going to get good sewing with that. The other thing is, and I get this a lot, particularly with people that have got second-hand machines, or people have given them things, you know, oh, you've got a new machine, here's some stuff for one of my machines. Use the right bobbin. Use the bobbin that came with your machine. Go and buy some more of them if you have to. I see a lot of old bobbins being repurposed. Now you may get away with that, but there's a couple of things that may happen. First of all, the older bobbin may not sit properly on the bobbin winder on your new machine, and if it skids, then you're not going to get a good wind. The other thing is, if it's too small, like the old Singer bobbins that are thinner than the standard bobbins that people tend to use now, they can jump around within the bobbin case, and that can cause you problems as well. Much better just to get rid of them. Something I'm going to mention here is the overwinding of threads on a bobbin. I used to see it a lot, and I think people in the past have done it a lot. Don't see it so much now, but it does still turn up. And what I mean by that is where there's multiple threads all wound on one bobbin. Never understood the point of it. I've never found anyone that's kind of gone back and used an old thread. So you kind of think, well, why didn't you just take that off in the first place? For the record, the most I got off of one bobbin was 11 threads. Ridiculous. Much better just to have a few bobbins in reserve, or just take the old thread off. Because of course, if you're overwinding on an old thread, then you can't wind as much of the new thread as you would really want. So you're going to run out quicker, so you're going to have to keep winding. So you're making more work for yourself. The other thing is, particularly with metal bobbins, and I've seen this more than once, is once you really do get to the old threads and you start pulling them off, you usually find the bobbin's gone rusty right at the centre. Old threads can catch around the new threads, and I wouldn't say knot up, but they can certainly cause the bobbin case to jump when you run out of the new thread. All in all, not a good idea. Treat yourself to some new bobbins, or just unwind the old thread. Just get rid of it, because you're really never going to go back. Now, in winding a bobbin, you want to use a good quality thread. Follow all the guides on the machine. Usually on the more modern machines there's a dotted line that you follow. Make sure it goes through every clip that it suggests. Now, one of the things I'm going to suggest you do is when you come to put it round the little tension stopper on the top of the machine, go round it from the front to the back. And you'll see what I mean. I'm going to show you the picture of that. And what I mean by that is go from the front to the back. It means that there's more thread caught under the tension clip, which means that you're going to get better tension on the thread. There's also less chance of it popping out, which can happen on some machines where you just go from the back to the front and just go round. Push the thread through the middle centre of the bobbin, the empty bobbin, and up through the hole that you'll see. There'll be one on either side. Hold that, push your bobbin down onto the bobbin clip, and then snap it over. Most modern machines, snapping the bobbin winder over to engage it will disengage the hand wheel, which means that the needle won't move when you're winding your needle. It's a safety feature. On older machines, you may have to turn a disc or a dial or pull the hand wheel out to do the same thing. It's a good idea to do that, safer. If you have an older machine, and like I said, you know, you can actually effectively sew with it with the bobbin winder engaged, because you manually release the hand wheel to stop the needle from going up and down. If you forget to do that, the needle will go up and down. So you can actually sew with the bobbin winder engaged. please don't, because I know through bitter experience that it's possible to actually melt the rubber ring that you use to wind the bobbin. It's a tension thing, it just pushes against the hand wheel. Don't want to get too much into it, but it starts to heat up and it will melt. And as someone who's had to remove that little melted slug of rubber from everything it touches, including the motor and the awful burning smell you might get, believe me, it's much better, safer, cleaner for your machine if you pretty much get into the habit of making sure you always push the bobbin winder back over to the left. Even when you've put the machine away in the box and you get it out, maybe part of your check should be, oh, okay, I need to make sure that that's over to the left, not over to the right, because it doesn't take much for that bobbin, that rubber ring that's inside the bobbin winder underneath, to heat up and to just fall off. So now you have your bobbin on the bobbin winder. You've got a piece of thread that you're holding up through the hole at the top of the bobbin. Keep hold of that. Start to wind the bobbin. Press the foot pedal or the start button. Get a few turns in, then stop. Snip off that thread, the loose piece of thread that you're holding on to. Don't let go of it. Cut it off and get rid of it. And then carry on winding. And what you're looking for is for the thread that's going on to the bobbin to look very straight and to be basically moving up and down, so the whole thing fills out evenly. If it starts to look like a bit of a triangle, so it's filling from the bottom and then slowly moving towards the top, you can gently just nudge the thread up with your finger. Don't pinch it, you can just almost push it up from underneath, just to get it to wind more evenly. You're going to get a good wind, but it might come off the bobbin a bit oddly. So yeah, as much as possible you want it to look like it's just filling it up top to bottom as it goes along. You're going to have a stopper on your machine. It's that little white thing that sits next to where you're winding the bobbin, and sometimes you'll notice that your actual bobbin goes over the stopper and it's in between the top and the bottom of the bobbin. And what that's there for is to make sure you can't overwind the bobbin. If you try, what you'll find, if you really try to fill up your bobbin, you'll find that after a while it will start to skid because it's pushing against that stopper, and ultimately it will push, the stopper will push up against the thread that you're putting on the bobbin and it will push it over and stop it winding. You don't really want to get that far. Now if you find it's too easy for you to overwind the bobbin, it possibly means that the stopper's not quite where it should be, and you'll notice there's a screw on top of the stopper, which means you can adjust it. Now if you want to adjust it at your own risk, but just release it a quarter of a turn, the screw. Don't unscrew it, because there's a little bolt inside and it will drop down inside the machine and you'll get very angry with me and you'll have to try and get the bolt out of the machine. Don't do that. Just quarter of a turn, and then you should find that you might be able to just move the little stopper on the top either in or out, because you can do it both ways. And you'll notice because it's offset, it means that you can push more of the stopper under the bobbin or pull less of the stopper, so less of the stopper shows in the bobbin. You'll see what I mean. And then tighten the screw up again, and that gives you a different place to wind the bobbin to. Likewise, you'll notice on a lot of machines the little tension clip where you've pulled the thread from the front to the back that I talked about earlier has a screw thread on the top of that, and that's because it pushes up and down on a little spring, so you can actually put more tension onto the thread or release it, almost like tension in the sewing machine. Again, if you feel it's coming off that clip a bit loose, quarter of a turn just to tighten it up. That's all you need, just a quarter of a turn, and see how that does. If you over tighten it, you'll actually pinch in the thread and it will kind of squeak because it'll be pulling itself off the bobbin when you're trying to wind. So just a quarter of a turn, or if you find it's too tight, quarter of a turn just to loosen it. Again, don't undo the screw. There's every chance there's a bolt inside and it will just drop down inside the machine. So do this at your own risk, but if you stick to quarter of a turn, you should be fine. And if you're not sure, just put it back where it was. So hopefully now you've finished winding the bobbin. It's a good amount of tension. You can pinch the thread that's in the bobbin. You'll notice it feels hard. That's great. It means there's tension on the thread. It's filled up the bobbin quite evenly, quite nicely. You know, not overfilled it, not spongy, not funny pyramid roof shapes or whatever you want to call it, like a triangle. You've got a good wind bobbin. So you stop winding, push the bobbin winder back over to the left. On the new machine this will engage the needle again. On an older machine you might have to turn the hand wheel to re-engage the needle. Snip the thread off, leave yourself a towel because you're going to thread it through the machine. Pull the bobbin off and you're good to go. You need to remember, obviously, the thread that you've been winding needs to be taken off and put back on again, because you're going to follow a different path to actually thread up the machine. But yeah, you've got a good bobbin now. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please comment. I'm always happy to come back if you've got questions or queries. Follow what I'm doing, like what I'm doing, and happy sewing.